What's up, everybody? We're back. Another new episode of the Last Wave podcast. We dive into topics like ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, nerd stuff, and conspiracies, and so much more. As always, thanks for listening. It means a whole lot. Check out the Facebook page if you haven't already. Same name and photograph. A lot of cool stuff on there so far, and I've got a lot more planned. So thanks again. We will jump into it. Today we're going over another episode of the 50 States of Paranormal Michigan today, as you can tell by the thumbnail. I'm pretty sure that was kind of obvious. So we're going to mix up the formula a bit. For Michigan, we're actually going to start with cryptids first. They have some of the most interesting ones I've heard of, to be sure. First and most famous, the Dogmen, Werewolf, Wolfmen, etc. They have different names, but they are all more or less the same horrifying creature. I will not go into a whole lot of detail in this regarding them because there's so much lore surrounding them throughout Michigan and other states. So we will make an episode of that at a later date, and it'll probably be one of the longest episodes, if not the longest so far, because there is just so much to go into and to research about them throughout the country. Basically, with the werewolf, dogman, Michigan dogman, all that stuff, you're looking at a humanoid-esque form, but with the head of a wolf or a dog. They're said to be about 6 to 10 feet tall on hind legs. There are actually not that many accounts where sightings are reported that turn violent. There's some, and there's some really good stories online that other storytellers do. There's a few, but usually it tends to be after they're attacked or some of that nature. So there's a lot more stories where they don't actually become violent. Often only when the creatures or their land is actually attacked do they strike out. This leads me to think that they may be more than just a creature. There are some Native American legends mentioning them as guardians or shapeshifters who were once young braves or young Native Americans. So there's a little bit of solace in that fact, and maybe they won't tear you to shreds if you see one. So that's good to know. On a side note, if you want to see a really, really underrated werewolf movie, look up Dog Soldiers. It's a mid-2000s movie, I believe. I'm sure you can get the DVD like super cheap on Amazon or somewhere. Mainly actual makeup and effects, not a ton of CGI. Really, really good stuff. One of my favorite werewolf movies. Big fan of werewolves and the whole Dogman thing. So that's one to definitely check out. But we'll go into all that at a later date. Another, honestly, even creepier set of cryptids is the Melonheads, connected to the Felt Mansion, a building that dates back to 1928 and has been a seminary, a state police post, and then became a school on the grounds of the Sagatuck Dunes. There's a couple, different storylines of this as to what the mansion has actually been, or where these creatures or humanoid forms have been sighted. Again, it's very vague, and they are in a couple other states as well. They're said to have been treated at an alleged nearby asylum and escaped to make their home in the then dilapidated Felt Mansion. The asylum was home to children born with hydrocephalus, a condition known as water on the brain, which can cause mental disability. The heads grow to large, globulous size. It does happen. It's an actual thing. You don't see it really a lot anymore, but I'd imagine it was, as most diseases and things were, more prevalent back then. They have been seen in multiple places in Allegan County. There are multiple other legends regarding them. The mansion mentioned before is real, but again, there are no records of an asylum or it being one. The local folklore does get murky, but if they were once real, it is actually just kind of sad. If they are an actual humanoid cryptid, then what the hell is actually going on in Michigan? These also branch into several other states, like I said, so we may venture into an episode regarding these cryptids as well. But just in general, they're fairly creepy, you know. And again, sad if they are real. So we'll just leave that right there for right now. Following on the path of dogmen, there are of course Bigfoot sightings. Now I have visited Michigan a few times. Before I ever went, I conjured up thoughts of cities like Flint and Detroit, but it's actually an extremely pretty state. Very wooded, tons of woods, tons of national parks. So there is no surprise that there are numerous cryptids and hominid sightings. Bigfoot sightings are usually prevalent throughout wooded states and national parks and that type of thing. Another state on our list with plenty of places for something to hide, so it's definitely possible. They also have their own lake monster, Pressy. The Lake Superior creature has been spotted several times since the 1800s. Again, plenty of places to hide. The lakes of Michigan are not, honestly, not lakes. If you've never actually been to them, they're really small oceans. I don't know why they're not labeled as such, but the immensity of the lakes, their own weather systems, shipwrecks. I mean, where do you draw the line? There could be any type of creature residing in some of those lakes. So it's definitely a possibility. Now, shying away from the cryptids a little bit because there are quite a few in the state, but that's just a handful of the major ones. Diving into some of the ghost stories and haunted places. One that really caught my eye was the Terrace Inn and 1911 restaurant in Petoskey. Over the years, there have been plenty of ghost reports there. The cool thing is, apparently, you can go to the front desk and ask to see the ghost files. That doesn't sound ominous at all. Which is apparently just a large folder of reports made from previous guests. It is a Victorian inn, so the history is there, and there are apparently three main spirits: a man in tweed who stands on a balcony, an interactive teenager who speaks to guests and is heard playing, and you guessed it, a lady in white who wanders the halls. If you know my channel, there's an entire episode dedicated to the lady in white phenomena and how it spreads throughout not only the different countries, but basically around the world in different forms. So check that out. That's a really interesting one I dived into. Up next is the Whitney Restaurant in Detroit on Woodward Avenue. This exquisite restaurant was the former mansion home of David Whitney Jr. Mr. Whitney was one of the Midwest's wealthiest lumber barons at the turn of the century, and he built the 20,000 plus square foot home in 1894. Since the mansion started restorations in the mid 1980s, there are some reports of unexplained activity. Shadowy apparitions have been seen on the second floor. Disembodied voices have been heard, and other strange activity has occurred throughout the grounds. There are EVPs and stuff seen moving around. Now, you'll see that a lot in haunting phenomena whenever there is restoration or, massive work being done on an ancient building. For some reason, it just stirs up the spirits. I don't really know what the I guess science you can say behind that is, but you do see that a lot. Now, towering over Marquette's cityscape and boasting really, really nice views of Lake Superior from guest rooms, the historic Landmark Inn has actually been one of the most popular sites in the city for a long time. Known for its historic decor, the Lilac Room on the inn's sixth floor is a popular meeting space, but it's better known by those who worked in the building in the main floor lobby for what happens when no one, at least no one visible, makes calls from the room. Is the caller the Lilac Lady, a former lover of a sailor who frequently stayed in the Lilac Room and once went sailing on Lake Superior and never returned? Again, mourning lady, lady in white kind of phenomenon there. Many think so, and for good reason. The heartbroken Lilac Lady committed suicide in the room by tying multiple lilac imprinted napkins together and hanging herself outside one of the room's many windows. That just seems. I didn't look into the validity of that, but now, like reading it and saying it aloud, it does kind of sound. It just sounds extravagant. Like it sounds like too much. Current hotel workers have described numerous sightings in the hall of the sixth floor of her ghost wearing a floral gown. After the calls are received, to this day, the hotel lobby switchboard continues to ring. So they're still getting calls. And more sightings of the Lilac Lady ghosts have been reported. Pretty interesting stuff. And again, another sad story that matches the Lady in White, vein and that whole thing. Lady in Dress hurt over a lost lover who never returned. We literally addressed that in that episode. Another really cool place was Henderson Castle, and it's in Kalamazoo. It's over a century old and supposedly hosts a number of ghosts. Henderson Castle is now a bed and breakfast that caters to the living, but the ghost of the home's original owners, Frank and Mary Henderson, as well as those of Spanish-American war veteran, a little girl, and a dog, interact regularly with the paranormal teams that investigate and guests that stay there. The apparently vocal spirits have favorite forms of communication, speaking through unplugged radios, tapping unsuspecting visitors on the shoulder, and sometimes appearing in full form wearing period clothing. So there are a ton of places with reported hauntings and other sad stories I encountered in my research. This is just a few of them. Michigan has a real rich history of hauntings and ghostly phenomena. I certainly encourage everyone to dig in a little bit more and see what you might find. This was just a handful of them, really. The state is flooded with haunted places. I mean, it's a whole bunch. On to the final topic. Usually we dig into the past regarding UFO sightings, but after looking into it, there have been over 30 UFO sightings in the state since 2019 has started. Some of the objects that have been reported so far are rectangular objects with bright lights, 3 bright objects flying in a circular pattern, that was over Detroit, a stationary globe shape with white, red, and green lights, that would be pretty crazy, 4 circular lights spinning at high speed, and that was in Kalamazoo, a big light right above a school in Walkerville, small circular disc-shaped object with red and green flashing lights, and that's over Huron, or Port Huron. 3 orange lit craft over Lincoln. A cigar-shaped object with 3 bright lights underneath, and that's in Stonington. So, man, that's just a whole lot. I mean, that's just a handful of the ones since 2019 has started. The state is fairly large and flat, so it's pretty easy to see the sky. I mean, in a fair point. If you could look up from your phones these days, people might see all kinds of stuff. Clearly, you definitely can in Michigan. So while you certainly can find some UFO sightings throughout the state and some terrifying creatures in the deep forests and dark, country roadways, and believe me, there are plenty of those, it appears the main piece of the paranormal pop definitely belongs to hauntings. Trust me when I say not only does typing paranormal Michigan into Google give you like a billion top 10 or top 5 haunted places and ghost tours, but the state itself really does have a different feel to it. In my time there, and like I said, I love the paranormal. I try to research it wherever I go, look into whatever I can find. In my time up there, I really wanted to do a lot more searching than I was able to, but everything from the forests to, like I said, those dark roadways, it all just feels different. Like even in North Carolina, where obviously I'm from, there's plenty to explore as far as paranormal and dark country back roads, but I don't know what it was about being up there, but I don't know, it just felt different. Again, as always, I certainly recommend doing your own research, researching your own state for sure. But that's pretty much all I got from Michigan, and this has actually been a pretty long episode. I really want my episodes to go a little bit longer than the 10-minute mark, so this is fine. We're slowly getting our way through all of the states. I've got a few more episodes of the states written already, and I'm sure I'll bring more to you shortly. Again, thanks for listening. Check us out on Patreon if you haven't seen that on the Facebook page already. Our Patreon page is on patreon.com. All you have to do is put an email. You can sign up. That's all you have to do. You can subscribe to us. there. It's $1 or $2 a month. It's not much. Basically helps, you know, pay for the time in doing this. You also get some exclusive stuff on there. I'll be putting up exclusive content on there as well. So again, I'm running a little long-winded this time, but I really appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.